afternoon and a warm welcome. Myself, Prasenjit Mukherjee, welcoming you to this focused, interesting, and pertinent to the current time roundtable hosted by Keep Computers. Well, since past few years, we as business and IT leaders have all embarked ourselves for a digital transformation journey and have strategized many such projects, either for our internal consumption or for our customers. However, the pandemic has taught us that the speed at which we can transform is mighty fast. Okay, now being forced to change the way people work nowadays and do business, that has triggered many organizations into embracing a digital world at an unexpected speed. Now, embracing new technologies through digital transformation projects defines a company's competitiveness on the market today for its efficient operation and its future development. However, as digital transformation of business picks up speed, there is an increase in the importance of three things. Data first strategy, when we look into a single source of truth, and data insights by usage of many kind of analytics. Data availability, which includes your backup, disaster recovery, data available at the edge, okay, and definitely overall the cybersecurity. From a siloed to an all-time connected business environment, the need for the effective cybersecurity is growing in parallel with the increasing digitalization of work processes. Unless we pay sufficient attention to data and information security, one incident may disrupt the whole strategy of a company's digital transformation and future development, what we are talking about, bringing enormous financial and reputational damage. This means we must ensure continuity of company's processes and not let a single cyber attack disrupt operations. As business strategists and business-aligned IT decision makers, it is our key responsibility to build our business running in different kind of environment, challenging situations, and at a greater scale than ever before. To eliminate such tactical band-aids and costly disruption, organizations need to focus on a long-term, intelligent, and smart strategy. Hence, today's topic of discussion is strategic digital transformation. We all have been discussing and planning about digital transformation, but the key word to think about, or the key thing, is the strategic digital transformation, which needs to be taken care of. Now, in this session, we will be exploring how business IT leaders are rethinking on their automation and digital transformation strategy for their organization and project, bringing positive impact for their business. Today, we have with us 5 esteemed business IT leaders from India, welcoming them, but not in an alphabetical order. Mr. Saurabh Sinha, CIO at Indigo Airlines. Mr. Ashwin Khurana, CIO at Ujjivan Small Finance Bank. Mr. Dhruv Gupta, CISO and Director Cybersecurity from Acolyte Digital. Mr. Harish A. Subana, Director IT and CISO at Collabra. And Mr. Nikhil Raj, CISO at Goals 101. 2 of our panelists will be joining very shortly. Okay, let's welcome the panelists who are here. Let's all welcome. I think Mr. Sinha is there. Mr. Khurana is there. Mr. Dhruv Gupta is there currently. Mr. Harish is also there. Thanks, Satan. In fact, during this COVID period, we failed to meet each other personally, and these are the virtual medium where we can look into each other and pass on a big smile and interact. Okay, so we'll request all the panelists if you can switch on your camera. Okay, let's get it. Okay, so friends, ready, set, let's go. Sorry, it's Indigo. Okay, and yes, that's the punchline of Indigo nowadays, because after the big lockdown and zero travel by people, now Indigo is all set to soar high, extending us on-time service. Mr. Sinha, we understand these tough times for an industry like yours. However, being a digitally transformed organization, the return back was seamless. We want to know from you, how successfully can a team lead a digital transformation in a consistent manner ensuring that technology is integrated into all elements of the organization to promote agility and capitalize on strategic vision. Okay, so as IT leaders with the decades of experience, we need your insight on this.
Thank you, Prasenjit. Good afternoon, participants. Good afternoon, my co-panelists. It's a pleasure to be here in this webinar, and thank you for this opportunity, Prasenjit. So, what I will try to focus on are typical business imperatives, which is more applicable to a aviation industry, because the entire aviation industry runs on a very, very thin margin.
True.
And the entities of the airlines who have been successful are those who have been able to manage their cost structure more efficiently. Okay. And drawing from there, the managing of the cost structure more efficiently, the productivity, the process efficiency has to be at the highest level.
Yes.
I mean, there is no second thought about it. So obviously the digitization will have to be directed with that focus of improving on the efficiency, the productivity of our business processes, and positioning ourselves better in front of our customer. So I will address both the points, and how. So this is basically a strategic vision that any organization, and particularly in the aviation industry, we will have to induce productivity enhancement and efficiency within our business processes. And the way we have approached this strategic vision has been to digitize end-to-end. And when I say end-to-end, we have the approach that we have taken is that we have built a process journey map for every kind of personnel. So let's take, which most of you are familiar with, is the crew. So right from the time that she leaves her home or hotel till the time she goes back after doing her duty, the entire process today is digitized in Indigo. And it's not only this process, but the process which are ancillary. For example, the process of serving meals on board. Yes, you will see them with a device in hand and all that stuff, which I would not just say that is digitization. The entire process which is a prerequisite for her to sell on board is the catering process, for example. So right from that time that meals, be it pre-ordered, be it forecasted on consumption forecasted emails or whatever it is, all these are loaded into the cart till the carts go back to the catering station. Even those processes are fully digitized. Okay. So when one organization drives a digital transformation with the help of technology, and it has to be with technology, people have to look at the end-to-end digitization. There is no point in building an RPA to do some reconciliation in finance and we say that, we are digitized.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So what we have done is that we have addressed it basis the personnel. So we have taken the crew, we have taken the airport staff, whether they are in the terminal or on the ramp. We have taken the pilots, we have taken the engineers. We have also taken our commercial people who are our sales people and digitize their entire end-to-end process. So we have gone with the personas and tried building up this journey map for each of the personnel. Yes, everything cannot be automated, cannot be digitized on day one itself. It's a journey that we take. We assign priorities for different processes. Like the first process we laid on priority for the crew, to give you that example, would be the sale on board, because that's a very crucial process that is revenue generating, that is very, very cost sensitive. True. In the sense that if there is more wastage on board, obviously, the question of sustainability today comes into play, one, and number two, it's a waste of money. True. I mean, you take something which you cannot sell. So that came out to be the highest priority element in this whole process, as a result of which we digitize. So what I'm saying is that the strategic vision is something that one has to keep in perspective. Basis that, develop your digital journey in terms of digitizing the entire process, and then any ancillary process which will contribute to that needs digitization. You can do it in phases, but that's the roadmap.
Yeah.
So that's how we want to position so that the entire end-to-end process gets digitized, and you then get the benefit of digitization.
True. Well,
What do you prefer?
yeah. In fact, rightly said that in this entire process of digitization or any kind of a project which you're looking, you're embarking on, I think the key component is how do you bring the efficiency in the process? How can you reduce the wastage? Okay, how can you increase the customer experience by the way of this? And definitely, all this will lead to a revenue generation. Okay, so I think rightly said, Mr. Sinha. Okay, thanks for your excellent insight. Okay, on this. Now, let me move to Mr. Khurana. It has been more than 5 years. Your organization is in the banking business and growing year on year. What has been the business impact during this COVID times? First, I just want to know briefly from you that during this entire last 2.5 years, what has been in the impact? The lockdowns were there and many things. So first, let's discuss on this. Then we'll move to the core question. Yeah.
I mean, hi, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to my co-panelists. I will start by telling Saurabh that I had an excellent experience of using the bot of Indigo, one of the best that I feel till date I have interacted with. You know, we being banks, we do put in a lot of money in these things, but the experience of the Indigo bot was really good. And good, he's part of the panel. I'll connect with him to find out more about it.
Thank you.
Coming back to your question, Prasanjit, the thing is, the COVID has taught us a lot. I think it has made sure that we enable things which we have in plan quicker than later. So one of the things that really got a lot of attention during this time was how do we use our data and how do we connect and engage with our customers. That was the key. Obviously, we got our first training during Demon when the notes had dried up in the hands of the customer, and we had to rely on different ways to ensure that the loans that have been given to the customer, the collection keeps on going on as it needs to happen. It gave us an insight. So when COVID actually happened, we were kind of ready because there were methods in place to connect with customers, to remind them about what's coming their way. The kind of customers we deal in, the whole thing works on the basis of muscle memory is what I call. So if you forget to give installments and you go at the fourth month to ask for the installment, it's out of their muscle memory. So what we needed to do was to ensure that we keep on reminding them that while there is a moratorium that has been put in place, if you can pay now, we will come to your doorstep to collect, or please keep it aside so that when the moratorium gets lifted, you will be in a better position to pay the money. And I think that really helped. And then obviously we opened up digital channels for customers to pay. We engaged with Airtel as our collection points, and a lot of customers could go to the collection point and make a payment. So we had what we call promise to pay calls with the customer very regularly. So did it help? Yes, it did help. If I look at the difference of collections during Demon versus difference of collection during COVID, we were doing far better during COVID times than during Demon time.
Okay.
There have been NPAs which have been there, but I think the banks are in control of that. So it's not something which is a scary picture at the moment.
So thanks, Mr. Khurana, for those highlights. Now I will come to the question. Okay, the right question now. What are the current workplace trends to adopt business approach and develop a flexible, healthy, and collaborative company culture to stay proactive, as the working environment we see today is changing day by day? So some insights on these, Mr. Khurana?
I think when COVID started and the first lockdown came into play, we started to work from home, right? So that became the culture. And the first thing that I could see in many groups, people asking was, how do we control how much people are working? How do we know they are working? How do we know that they are not doing anything else during the time they are supposed to work? And I think over the last 18 months, there is one maturity that has come in. People are not tracking people about the time they are putting in. They've started to track outputs coming out from the people.
True.
That has been a big change. I think we are still taking baby steps towards collaboration as a platform for ensuring that a communication only happens once. We keep on communicating the same thing again and again in various forms and fashion, and that is adding to the stress of people. I was talking to a friend in Singapore and trying to find out how things happen there, and they have moved on to on the cloud collaboration platform. So they say that when we are doing a project, everybody is on that platform. You don't need to write emails to each other, and we are able to work and deliver, be more productive in terms of the delivery, and it's not just about responding to emails. So those kind of platforms, I think we will see big things happening in that space in the coming months, because I don't think work from home is going away. COVID may, but now people have tasted the work from home pleasures, and they would want to continue that way. That's the biggest challenge in new hiring.
So, Mr. Khora, I have just a question in mind, like yours being a financial sector, a banking sector. So working from home, one definitely is a collaboration, okay, which is needed with your employees working from home. Second is the security component, okay, because this kind of business transactions or what kind of business into security plays a very key important role. So did you face any challenge during this transformation phase or whatever?
Yes, the challenges of opening up everything from home was there. So you couldn't get the same feeling of as you're working in office with the kind of activities you are able to perform. There was a restriction on how much you could do from home. When the bank started off, the restrictions were enormous. So to give you an example, we didn't allow a Teams and a VPN to be on the same machine. For a reason that there could be leakage of data that could happen and things of those sort, right? We over the period of time we learned how to control that. So when we started off, it was not something that we opened up everything. It was definitely the critical processes. It was through a VPN, so you were restricted from using collaboration tools when you were on VPN. So those kind of things did come in play. But as we have progressed, there is a lot of maturity in the environment. You have started to build perimeters of security, which is now not restricted to the bank's data center, but it also extends to where the person is working from.
Yeah, to the last mile.
So, to the last mile, exactly. Yeah. So whether it is in form of data leakage prevention, whether it is in form of ensuring that all access happens through proxies and controlled areas into the network. So those kind of things have been put in place. We feel a lot more comfortable. But as you rightly said, one breach and everything goes back to square one, right?
Yes,
so that's where it stands.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Mr. Khora. I'll come back to you after some time. Okay. Let me move to Mr. Subana. Mr. Subana, during this pandemic, what has been your business strategy to keep the needle moving, and what kind of technology implementation did you bring in your business? First part of the question. Okay. Further, in the second part, I would want to know that what does it take to engage and position a strategic transformation to combat risks, protect critical apps and data, and even aid faster recovery from a data breach or other disruptions. We have been talking with Mr. Khora on the security aspect. So here we want your insight being the security in charge for Colabora also. So I want your insights, Mr. Subana.
Sure. Thank you, Prasenjit. Good afternoon to everyone. I think, Ashwin Khurana, right? So he rightly covered some of the aspects, especially on the security angle or the challenges what we had, right? So definitely, even for me also, one of the major challenge, right? To make sure that business runs without any disruption, especially on the COVID, right? All of a sudden, we just started, okay, everybody has to work from home. Then it's not like a small team where we just have to allow them to go there and do it. But as I'm there in the industry from past 25 years, right, we used to do all these kind of tests actually, basically for the complaints or for a customers, right? So where they used to ask us to do the BCP, they used to ask us the remote testing, then what will happen in case if one of your main data center goes down or one of your this one. So this actually, whatever the testing we have done, that we have done, but here it was actually a real practically, right? Means practically we need to go with this on the day one, right? In that aspect, we did little bit of what do you say, a little bit of homework in the back end, because we know definitely this is going to happen sometime in the month of February. So we started doing all these things sometime in the month of preparation from the December itself, right? So we already tested all these things, part of our process, procedure, project requirement. So we did this, but exactly, I think 1st of February or something, we were actually live or for all the users with working from home, right? So where we have protected all those things, it was there. But the next challenge what we had is definitely, we don't know what are the kind of risk, what are the kind of security will be vulnerable or which will be in place. Right? It's something that we just started, right? So then later, I think from past years, definitely we have learned a lot of lesson, right? And coming to the question, right? You talked about two critical, fundamentally, there are two critical points, right? You talked about the combat risk, then protecting the critical applications or app or a data, then faster recovery. But definitely all these three are interrelated, right? So when it comes to the risks, so what one of the main thing is, right, we have to understand the business need and the application access, all those kind of things basically. So we need to understand what exactly the business model, how they are doing all those things, right? So once we understand all those things, so there should be a, means again, when we just go back to either it's a hybrid or means it's a hybrid or an on-prem or it's only the cloud or whatever, right? So people will assume or they think that cloud means there are a lot of things will just come bundle, then security definitely is in place, right? But there is a little bit of security is in place, but definitely not as per our business need or customer requirement, right? So we need to make sure that during this transaction, what we have done, we have taken care of the data classification, then the data encryption, and also we are actually deployed the DLP, right? Very important what we need to do, we need to take business part of these initiatives, right? IT cannot drive, or information security team cannot drive all these things. People think that, okay, IT is forcing, IT is pushing all these things, but we need a business. Actually, what we started, we actually started partnering with the business, then we ask business to drive this activity for us, so that we'll work in with hand in hand with them. That's how actually we have done. Then there are basic decisions which we have taken, and again we have done the proper credential management, we have deployed the MFA, then two-factor authentication, whatever that we have. Very important, access level management based on the role of the each person. Then what Corona is very important, the critical point what he pointed out, right? Allowing the access only via VPN, right? In case if business want our application to be accessed only via for internal people, right? Then properly you configure all the things, make sure that it works from your VPN or it works from your office. That's all, nowhere else. Then apart from that, the business also has got a little bit of some more information, some more requirement in terms of there are a couple of applications they wanted to access from external as well. So for that, what we have done, again, we'll try to talk to business saying that, okay, you need this access from specific location, so that based on that, we allow only by geographical location, maybe from India and US or India and Philippines, right? Depends on the business requirement. So some of those things, what we have done, very important, we have to keep educating the user on all the threads, spam mails. That education is very important actually. Apart from taking the business part of our this one, the education of the user is very important, right?
One side, we need to bring in tools and automation, and the other side, definitely educating the people. Okay, or else it won't work. That's the balance, perfect balance, I think.
Correct. The internal threat is a major one actually. Especially handling the internal threat is, we need to be a partner with them, right? So these are some of the best practices what we are implemented. More than best practices, as I told you, we have to work with the business to make sure that it is actually taken care of whatever as per the business requirement.
Okay.
Then coming to your second point on the fast recovery, you put all the control in place, you do everything is in place, but definitely security cannot be 100%, right? There will be a improvement, because security is always, it's a journey, whatever it is, right? It is not like that, okay, once you are done, we are done, okay, at least for next 6 months we can sleep. No way, every day we have to start working, right? So recovery definitely. So first again, there also we need to check with the business what is the kind of RPO or RTO what actually they are looking for, right? If something happened, how soon they wanted to get those applications up and running. Then very important is it all the application or a specific application. Based on that, we can actually start doing all those things, right? Configuring the backend, whether it is on-prem or on the cloud. There are a lot of technologies out there which should be able to do it all those things. But however, actually to be frank, I have done a lot of these kind of testing on the business day after taking the approval from the business, right? On the business hours, I have done a couple of things saying that means we are done the weekend, we are done the on business, off business hours, all the thing, but I just want to test these kind of things during the business hours. I just took the business approval, then I was trying to do some of these things, roll it out. Then I was able to successfully bring in or restore the application in a span of around 5 to 10 minutes, right? And again, there is always a geographical replication also is there in case if business is looking for a BCP, then we need to find out which are the two geographical locations which we need to identify, and also the synchronization between the both the location. So some of these things definitely some of the points which we have considered, which we have implemented, but still a lot more things are there on the plate.
In fact, it just came to my mind that if you bring in business into your entire journey, okay, any kind of a initiative what as IT department is taking, if business has a buy-in, your getting the approval of a budget from the management becomes easier. Okay, yes. or else you have to struggle. Okay, your business buys in, you get the approval. Yeah.
One is the management approval, right? Yeah. Or a budget. Second thing is pushing the end user is very critical.
I know.
Very important.
I know.
If as being IT, if I tell any of the salesperson or delivery person or any of the other people, they might listen based on my role, but it will not have a complete impact on the complete user community of their particular department. But if it comes from the business top down, they will follow. They have to listen.
True. Very true. Very true. Very true. Thanks, Harish. Let me move to Mr. Gupta. He has been patiently listening to all of us. Mr. Gupta, your organization is creating a digital experience for your customers, transforming their business. Okay. Now, how could CISOs adapt their roles to become transformation leaders who can empower the company with properly integrated security while providing opportunities to accelerate faster adoption? Mr. Gupta, your insights.
Thank you so much, Prasenjit. Good afternoon to all the panelists. Thank you for the opportunity. I mean, I think all the panelists have already covered most of the concepts, but I'll just try to take an approach towards an IT services firm, which I've been a part of just in my overall experience. Yeah. I mean, I think the basics would always remain the same, but I mean, as an IT services provider, you're dealing with a lot of different types of clients, right? You're dealing with a telecom provider, you're dealing with the banks, you're dealing with a lot of organizations which
different
are
industry verticals. Yeah.
Different verticals, there are different compliances. If you're dealing with somebody in Europe, you're looking at GDPR. If you're looking at somebody in the US, then you're looking at NYDFS, CCPA, maybe ISO becomes important. That is the compliance part. And in terms of also the technology side of things, because 80 or 90% of a company which is more into the services side has people who are working on client projects. Obviously, there will always be an infrastructural conflict as well as to there will be an official infrastructure and there will be maybe the laptops that they'll be using to do work which is for a client would be different from the laptops they'll be using to do some of the work which is more internal for their role within the organization, whether it is any IT services. So all those aspects, and assuming that, I mean, since everybody has been working from home, everything has been digitized, a lot of work has been happening on SaaS applications. I think to come back to your question around how to create a digital transformation driven integrated cyber approach wherein everybody is motivated enough to follow security practices. I guess again as a CISO, it's very critical to have a direct channel with the leadership. It's very important for you to understand what are the major goals of the business in terms of how does it drive profits. What are the real risks within that organization in terms of, I mean, when you say risk, I mean, we have to avoid being very technical and talk about stuff like SQL injection and Log4j. We have to talk more about data breaches, more about compliances, more about issues that will be caused if you're dealing with a telecom provider, let's say based in US versus somebody who's based. I think more of relationship building and understanding the overall needs of the organization, and obviously driving a culture wherein technicalities promote, but strategy is given importance, and of course, relying on the right sets of technology, not starting off with technology, but reaching to technology as an end solution is something I would say is something we should be doing. And maybe, I mean, looking at solutions which are more in the CASB space, wherein you can cover the entire gamut of DLP and gateways and all those kinds of things is a good idea. And I guess Mr. Harish also mentioned about the security awareness, right? So, I mean, it starts with the insiders. So you need to train them. You need to get them to understand what is a phishing attack, and especially with using personal devices, I guess this has become even more complicated.
Very true, very true, very true. In fact, with this last 2.5 years, during this period where number of attacks which has actually increased, okay, exponentially, a CISO or a security persons or the person who's heading the security, his role becomes very, very important. Being a part of the boardroom or being a part of the business strategy, okay. Else earlier it was only a siloed part of IT security. Okay. I think this has helped. Yeah. Thanks a ton. Let me come back to Mr. Sinha. Mr. Sinha, let me come back to you again. Mr. Sinha, while agile business models serve as transformational change agents, in your opinion, could transformational business models help business to scale digital solution in days rather than months with its greatest impact? Need your thoughts on these, Mr. Sinha.
Yes, to a good extent, I must say, but we have to be cognizant of that fact that there is a lot of other components other than just implementing a digitized solution, which is typically the reskilling of people, retooling of people. We have to understand that sometimes it fundamentally changes the way they do work today. Compared to what they will do in a digitized environment. So I think, yes, agility does matter. The business can basically leverage that. But again, at the same time, it is very important to give adequate amount of time to the people who are the actual players. User adoption is extremely important. And the way we have done user adoption, especially where it involved a large mass of people like the crew or the engineers or the airport staff, we have gone, very, very stealthily initially, okay, at the initial stages. We engaged more with their senior supervisors or their managers who are on the ground, not the managers who are sitting in the headquarters, but managers on the ground. We have gone very, very stealthily with them, explained to them, incorporated their feedback, and then we decided to roll it out slowly across the entire population. So yes, agility is important, but then we have to avoid big bang, because one thing one should not try to achieve is a big bang approach and thinking that we can digitize this entire organization or the entire process over a few weeks or a month or so, whatever it is. It doesn't happen that way.
Thanks, Mr. Sinha. Thanks. Mr. Khurana, quickly, I will come to you. Need your insights on how can we ensure that data authorization is flexible, adaptable, and implemented quickly. Okay, and your industry being a highly regulated one, how can we give audit reports that will help us comply with regulations effectively? So, your thoughts on this, Mr. Khurana?
Two bits to it. Flexible is not the right word. I would say, is there a straightforward method to ensure that we are working in a secure manner where data is concerned? So I would say that we should have methods of authorization which are simple but strict. It has to be adhered to all the time, and that's what it is. So the first step in that journey is to identify ownership of data. Am I authorized to authorize the data that I'm authorized, right? To give you a classic example, in a bank, we started a credit card business. Credit card business was started on the basis of current retail customers in the bank. Now, the credit card head went out to the field, they got the customer, they spoke to the customers. And when they came back into the bank, they realized that the data that they had got was different from the data that we had in the bank.
Okay.
Whether it was telephone number or email and things of those sorts.
Yes.
And he wanted to change the data, and the ownership of the data was not with him. the bank follows a method to change the data. So they said, okay, we'll get the data changed, but this will need confirmation from the customer, which we'll take on a call. And so it was not you go and get signature from the customer, but we will need to take follow-up process. So that's how we need to be making sure that the data is under control and under proper stewardship. If the moment we would have changed the data without acknowledging the owner with the owner of the data, we would have created a mess of our data.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's how we need to be keeping control on the data. I mean, it's the new oil, right? You need to ensure that you are using the data right and maximizing it being with you.
And
Any digital,
we should have a single source of truth also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any digital journey you start, it's not about how good you are in front-end technology. It's about how strong is your core behind. Because ultimately raw data comes from the core.
Yes.
And if your core is not strong, then whatever you do on the front end, you will not be able to achieve what you have set out to achieve.
True.
In today's time of easy, I wouldn't say easy availability, but availability of data to create report trends and things of those sort. I think we need to ensure that the same easiness is available to the auditors when they look at data, right? So the first level of confidence that auditors get when they come to audit you is availability of data. You open up your portal and say, here is all your data, you check what you want, you will get everything. That is the biggest comfort you can give. So having the right financial marks, having the right marks for what audit would come and do a verification on is the first step to ensure that auditors are convinced that your data is your data. The second thing that they look for is how many times the data has been touched when it was taken from the host to the mart. RBI in fact says that it should be straight through. There shouldn't be any intermediate correction to data that should happen that gets picked up from your source systems and be sent as reporting to RBI. So that's their second way to identify how good or bad the host data is in terms of the regulatory filings that we need to carry out. There are various marts that have come into play which populate this data and ensure that everything happens in a straight through manner. I think the day we are confident that every data that we provide, either to the user or to the auditor or to the regulator, is straight through, I think that's the nirvana we need to attain.
Yes.
In terms of data.
Yes, absolutely. Great thoughts. And I think this is where many of the industry experts or people from your industry they're moving towards. Okay, thanks, Mr. Khurana. I will come to you, Mr. Savana. Mr. Savana, with your years of project experience, want to understand how can we use the transformation drivers to establish a digital business plan, lead enterprise, and provide assistance in navigating the digital disruption.
Okay, so here actually see what we need to do, right? So what basically I have done, so we need to work with the business and have a roadmap, right, of the complete digital transformation, right? So once you have a complete roadmap, and again, here what we are seeing, we are transformation from drivers to the establishing the business plan, right? So that means we're actually going to one level to the next maturity level where we are going to get established, and that will be a platform for the way forward, right? So that means once you have a plan, so there you need to identify some of the quick wins as well, right? How exactly? Because without showing the value add, without showing your quick wins to the management, it will be very difficult to convince them and get a support in terms of either a budget or in terms of getting the digital journey as well, right? So then we also need to show some of the ROI as well, right? So one of the thing what actually I have done in this one, so where we identify some of the very, very critical application and also the data, which we have moved from on-prem to the cloud. So once we have done that, we have showed the business what kind of value actually it has bringing in terms of both security, in terms of availability, scalability, all those kind of things. Then we definitely have a handshake and also the support from the business. From there, we can just take it. And in the current scenario, IT is no more a backend support to business, right? So now actually we are actually playing the critical role And also we are actually partnering with them, right? With the
Yes.
business and also with the top management, showcasing the value that brings onto the table for the business about the next generation technology, whether it is AI, bot, machine learning, right? So, but these are the fancy words, right? But for business, they want to see, okay, when you do any of these things, what exactly they're going to earn. So they worried about their numbers, right? Sales or whatever, how exactly that's going to bring into there. So some of those things actually what we have to show, we have to show them return of investment. So some of those things also. Based on that, we can just do the disaster recovery, those kind of things which we can explain to them. When it comes to the disruption, right, it is nothing but any process, the way it is going, if there is any kind of deviation, if there are any kind of change, so that is what actually we used to call, right? So here in digital disruption, where actually we are talking about machine learning, AI, cloud, bot, everything. So these are the things where people will start thinking was, okay, this is something like new technology. How exactly it is going to make changes to my business? What will do the value add, right, for them? Then how it is going to impact, and also the how they're going to accept some of those things, right? So these are some of the fundamental things which we need to bring it to their awareness and make sure that they are actually understand that they are very, very comfortable, so that the journey will become little easier. But definitely it will be challenging, but it will become little easier when we have a support with the management.
Okay. Great, Harish. Now let me come back to Mr. Gupta. Mr. Gupta, how do you improve your organization culture of innovation as a CISO? Okay, how do you encourage innovative thinking? How do you encourage improve the culture of innovation and advancement within the cultural realities you confront in your actions?
Yeah, again, I think it all boils down to basics, right? I mean, it's a good question actually. So, I mean, you have to create, I think, many leaders, many project managers. You have to create more ownership within the ecosystem, right? I mean, if a person is scared of making mistakes, right? If there will be a breach, or if there is something, or if there are new ideas that are coming in, or if there is no brainstorming, or if you create a culture wherein a person is not motivated enough to I mean, give suggestions and make big changes, right? Because today, like we've been discussing, well, the traditional approaches or the vanilla approaches towards using some of these antivirus solutions and VPN approaches might be good in certain scenarios, but some of them don't work, considering that people are working all across the globe in different types of geographies and different IP addresses, different bandwidths, and all of those things. So, I mean, we need a situation wherein people who are enthusiastic and hungry in terms of cybersecurity as a subject, in terms of cybersecurity as a business enabler, they should all come forward. And I guess you need to get all those ideas. You need to be able to encourage people. I mean, designation apart, I mean, you need to create a flat culture, so that, and I mean, a simple example, right? This topic of DevSecOps, I'm sure a lot of people talk about it, but I mean, the DevSecOps concept of developers and security personnel working together. I mean, if you can just make that culture go across different aspects, right? Even the network admins working together with the SOC team, or incident managers who are handling a simple finance related incident, working with a guy who's handling a data breach, and maybe a developer working with a security guy by embedding security by design in code. I mean, small things. And even from the exec level, right? If a CFO, a CIO, and a CISO can work together, understand business risks, and try to marry that with that profitability of the organization or what drives the business, I guess these flattening of cultures wherein people are coordinating, making 1 and 1 equivalent to 11, that kind of approach, I think is, I think the bottom up as well as top down is what I think drives innovation and advancement, I would say.
Rightly stated by you. In fact, in this session, we had very good insights from the leaders, business leaders, the IT business leaders here. And these are the things which we should keep in mind when we are strategically going towards our digital journey. Okay, so the digital journey calls for a seamless integration, deployment, and business continuity. However, we need to be more strategic in deploying smart, intelligent, strategic solutions. Now, is this a necessity? Yes, this is mandatory for future-proof business growth and continuity using strategic digital transformation methodologies we all were discussing. I want to thank all the panelists for your time here and sharing your thoughts and your insights, because you are the leaders who are actually driving the digital journey for your organization and for your customers. Okay, we shall be getting in touch with you one-to-one, and also in the future months, if we get an opportunity, we'll love to come and meet you and speak one-to-one in your organization. Okay, thanks again for being a part of this wonderful roundtable discussion, where today we discussed about strategic digital transformation. Thanks, Atan. Take care, be safe.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.